Well, hello there. My name is Dominique Lee, and I serve as the lead pastor of Hope Fellowship in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's such a privilege to be with you today as we talk about young adults. And with this, our time together now, we're going to talk about understanding young adults. There are many misconceptions about young adults and ministry amongst young adults, and questions people are asking are the young adults really reachable? Are they disenchanted with the church? What are they really about? What do they really want? And so with our time together, we're going to talk about how do we get some of those answers and how can we better understand young adults. And so I want to talk about first some misconceptions that people have and maybe the church has had and believed about young adults that are not necessarily true according to young adults. Let me give you 4 misconceptions about young adults, and we'll talk about 5 or 6 truths about who they really are. And by the time we're done, I hope that we can have a better strategy for engaging and connecting with young adults. So here's the first misconception. We believe that young adults want to be entertained. I understand why we've thought that. We reflect that in our programming. We reflect that in how our worship spaces look. But the reality is young adults are not looking to be entertained. They're not looking for us to put on a show for them. They're not wanting us to kind of wow them each and every time we gather. They're not looking for a production or a performance. They're not looking for us to kind of give them a good show and then send them on their way. And so misconception number 1 is that they want to be entertained. We have to make them want to come back. We have to give them something that makes them feel happy and excited about our churches. And that's kind of maybe caused us to disconnect with them because we maybe believe that they actually want to be entertained when they don't want to be. Number 2 is that they want everything fast and easy. It has to be quick. It's got to be effortless. Otherwise, they won't come. They won't engage. They won't support it. And that's also not true. A third misconception is that trendier is better. I put in my notes here that skinny jeans are not king. Believe it or not, all young adults are not looking for the next skinny jeans pastor or worship pastor. They're not looking for the next trendy thing. They're not looking for the next big idea, or they're not looking necessarily for what works somewhere else. They want to be really connected to our churches. So I think before we can look around other churches to help us understand them, we have to understand that, hey, other churches may have some cool stuff happening, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily effectively reaching young adults. So trendiness is not a big pull for young adults. The 4th thing is that young adults are not disinterested in the church. People have said and believe that young adults are over the church. They're done. We can't get them back. We don't make a difference in their life. And that statistically has shown not to be true. Statistics show that young adults want to be engaged in the church, but there's a certain way they want to be engaged. So there's a certain way we have to go about connecting them to the life of our churches. And so here are 5 or 6 truths about young adults based off statistics and studies. The first thing is that young adults really want authenticity when they come to a church. It's got to be real. They don't want to go through the motions. They don't want it to be a performance. And again, they're not looking to be entertained. Here's some numbers for you. 55% are wanting a spiritual encounter. So that speaks to the longing in their soul, in their heart, in their life for a spiritual environment. They're thinking, hey, there has to be more to my life than this, and they're longing for spiritual encounters. That's 55%. So the majority of young adults are looking for a spiritual encounter. 77% of young adults would rather be in a sanctuary versus an auditorium. I think that's a huge statistic to know in order to understand young adults, because when we look around, right, you look on social media, you look on Instagram or websites or Facebook, churches that are really growing are the ones with the big lights and the big screens and the smoke machines. But that's not necessarily the thing young adults want. They would rather be in a sanctuary that has more of a reverent feel, because to them, that speaks to something sacred and something more authentic than just the normal auditorium with all the bells and whistles. But it reminds them of, hey, this is real. There's value in this. And it's not to say that if you have auditorium, you're not being effective, but it's something for us to glean in the idea of young adults want a sanctuary versus an auditorium, which I think is awesome. 67% has 67% prefer classical or traditional worship than modern worship. So singing hymns is huge among young adults. It reminds them again of the power of the gospel. It's simplistic, but it's real. The words of hymns really resonate with young adults. And so that's important for us to know if we're going to truly reach young adults. Hey, we don't have to put on a performance for them. They really want it to be authentic, for it to be honest, for it to be real, for it to be connecting to them emotionally, but also connecting to them in a way that they know, hey, they're not trying to just put on a performance. They're actually trying to reach me in a very authentic way. So authenticity is important. Transparency is the second thing I would say young adults are looking for. As we hope to understand young adults, transparency is what they're looking for. So they're looking for, not for professional Christians, they're not looking for a professional pastor, they're not looking for a professional leaders. They're looking for men and women who say, hey, I'm broken, you're broken, here's how I struggle, and here's how Christ is being sufficient in the midst of my struggle. Now, but it's not to be confused with them not wanting mature leadership. They do want mature leadership, but they're not looking for those guys or girls who kind of put on their Jesus face on Sunday morning, but they're looking for guys that they can walk in life with and say, hey, this is real for me. They don't want just to go through the motions. They want to be told the truth about the broken world, their brokenness, and how that brokenness in Christ can be healed. And so in the midst of a broken world, they want just truth in that. Hey, say what it is. If something is broken, say it's broken and point them to Christ. Don't sugarcoat anything. Just say it like this, because young adults really value transparency. And the third thing young adults are looking for is support. As they walk through their specific life stage, they're looking for a church and people that feel like family. Young adults today are confronted with such liberal perspectives, with such temptation, and with such unbelief in their faith 24/7 because of social media and mass media. And so they're bombarded with the culture and the way of the world. And they're looking for support as they journey in Christ to not be sucked in or overtaken by the world, but they need places that they can really find men and women who want to really encourage their faith, really walk with them, and really support them and come alongside them in their journey. Young adults are longing for the ability to make a difference in the world. Again, they know the world is broken. They realize, hey, something's not right about the world, and so they long to connect in a way that they can serve their community, serve their church, and so they want their hands to be busy for the gospel ministry. They want their hands to be actually working towards making a change in their community, in society, whether it's after school program, whether it's doing a community garden. And no matter what it might be, we need to make sure we're allowing them to use the skills and talents God has given them if we're going to really understand what they're looking for. If we're going to understand young adults and connect with them, we have to understand they are super transient. What I mean is their schedules are crazy. Some are in town just for school. Some are in town because they moved from somewhere else for a job. There are different reasons why young adults are in our cities and in our churches. But the main thing is we have to understand, hey, their lives are busy and moving. And so we have to find unique ways to think outside of the box to connect with them and to understand it. So if we're going to get to know them, we have to understand, hey, it's not personal. They're not blowing us off. They're just busy, and they can't help but to be busy because of the way their life is at the moment. We have a guy at our church who he works the midnight shift. He wants to be at church. He plays the drums, but his schedule is just crazy. And so we have to love him in a way, even outside of his schedule being busy, having to learn to love him, disciple him amidst his busy schedule. And the last thing I would say as we conclude our time talking about understanding young adults is that, hey, they are wide open. They're not a lost generation. They're not a lost cause. They're more open, and they're searching and seeking more than we think they are. And so we have to find unique ways to connect with them, to speak their language, to get on their turf, and to connect with them. And so understand, as you try to strategize about connecting with young adults, they want you to do that. And that's half the battle, right? There's no need to try to find a way to connect with them because they already want us to do so. And so we don't have to kind of wreck our brains and say, okay, they want us, they not want the church. But no, statistics prove they're longing for the church to be a part of their life. Contrary to popular belief in modern culture, they want us, they want Christ. And so as you engage and connect with young adults, understand the misconceptions, understand what they really want, and I pray we would know they're more open than we think they are, and that Christ would give us vision to reach young adults in our city.